Usually, when you're trying to make somebody fall in love, your first instinct is to hide your flaws. It's to show that you're perfect. It's to show that you have no emotional vulnerabilities. It's to show them that you have no neediness. But what happens is like looking at an AI photo of someone. It looks uncanny. We can't connect with them. Like a politician who's too perfect, we can't connect with them. And so, unfortunately, most of our disconnections in our relationships comes because we try to create the illusion of perfection. And the only time anyone is going to be able to connect with you with perfection is when they're not connected with reality. They want someone who's perfect. They want someone who has no flaws. They want someone who, not that they want someone, but that they believe the illusion that people can be perfect. And because of that, those types of people will never be in happy relationships because they never learned how to connect with a person's soul. So today I'm going to show you guys how to use your flaws, right? For example, right, you could always keep it there for like a minute or then go back. For example, Jesus Christ, I'm going to show you how to use your flaws to make somebody fall in love, because that's the truth. People fall in love with your flaws. It's like, think about a baby, fucking weirdos. When you see a baby, when you fall in love, why do you think you fall in love with that little thing? Because it's vulnerable. It goes like googie gaga, and you're like, oh my God, he's so dumb. Oh Lord, he's so vulnerable. And you want to protect it. Like seeing a dog, you know the whole, in the arms of the angel. You'll notice that they use what? Sympathy. The ay bendito. And that causes you to purchase a dog. But if they went from in the eyes of the angel to who let the dogs, and the dogs are fucking doing worms and spinneroonies, that ad is not going to work as much as the sympathy ad. And this is why this strategy is so powerful, because I want to encourage you guys, stop acting fucking perfect, all right? This video is to allow you to be as creepy as you want in a range of acceptability. And it'll make you come across more genuine, more attractive. And yeah, you might be a little weird, but it's the good type of weird, all right? So let's begin with the video. And if you guys want to work with me one-on-one, click on the description down below where it says work with Father Alex. Because y'all got to stop listening to Granny, man. Like, Granny lived in another era, and Granny has advice for that era. But for now, Granny doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about, okay? You can listen to her about life advice. She knows about that. But about dating advice, she don't know about Tinder. Get the fuck out of here. So click in the description down below where it says work with Father Alex, and there you'll be able to book a one-on-one phone call with me today, okay? So let's begin with the video. All right, so look, remember, whenever you show, so let's talk about the flaws, right? A lot of people are very scared because there are some flaws you can't show, okay? Like flaws that make you look like a psychopath, you can't have, right? And those flaws, it could be like you being rude to people. Right? You having somebody locked in your basement, right? You not having any social intelligence, not having any empathy, psychopathic shit. That will make somebody run away. The type of flaws that I'm talking about are flaws that afflict you and it doesn't hurt any people. It could be that you're depressed, right? It could be that maybe you have problems with bipolar. But it becomes a flaw that hurts you, and that it doesn't apply to this whenever your flaws causes you to hurt them, physically and verbally. We are not talking about that type. A person cannot fall in love with that. That is actually a trauma. So all the people who think I'm talking about that, stop going like that like Birdman, and realize that that is not the type of flaw that I'm talking about. You need help, okay? The type of flaw is the type of flaw that if the person gets close to try to help you, it doesn't hurt them, right? They can help you, but you're not gonna attack them, because then you're putting people in a position where it's almost like you're the abuser and the victim. Who the fuck you think you are, right? So yeah, remember, so why flaws, okay? Well, because you might say, well, Father Alex, if I show my flaws, they're gonna take advantage of it. Good. You're sort of filtering though. You're filtering the cycles. So if I say, I sometimes get depressed, and then something bad happens, and then my partner says, yeah, that's why you get depressed all the time, motherfucker. That's a sign. You don't need to go and you don't need to get married with them. You don't need to get married. You know exactly that they are flawed. So because of that, this showing your flaws will make it seem like it's negative. No, it just gives you leverage. You know that they're bullshit, right? So it's a good thing because only toxic guys will either one, not deal with you, or two, take advantage of it. Right? They're the type of person that goes to a Sexaholic Anonymous just to get chicks, right? That's actually really, I'm not gonna lie, you get the freaks there. She goes up, yeah, I'm addicted to sex and I can't stop. The guys are like, oh, really? Tell us more. It's like, do encore. Oh, Lord have mercy. Anyways, toxic guys, people, that's actually really true. Guys actually go to those places for that. So toxic guys, you'll be able to filter them out, right? And now, the healthy guys will try to help you, right? Healthy guys will try to, will almost like build a symbiotic relationship where you both help each other out, right? For example, an example is Dexter Morgan, where he was dating this woman who unfortunately got SA'd. Long story short, she didn't like to have sex because of that. And he said that he likes that because he also doesn't want to have sex. And so he says that their flaws work with each other. He doesn't try to force it, and she doesn't try anything. Well, what happens is that they ended up falling in love with each other. And the reason why is because they understood that they both are flawed humans and that this relationship works. And you sort of like, it's almost like when you know you're with someone who also has their problems and you have their problems, it's almost like when you feel like you're part of something, right? It's like, imagine that like me, I have tinnitus. And when I know that somebody has tinnitus, there's a certain level of like, oh, I get you, you get that. And so it's kind of like that, you bond over your weaknesses. But a toxic person will not be able to bond because they struggle being vulnerable. So what they'll do is that they'll push you away because getting with you will require them that they show some vulnerability, right? So that's one thing. So it creates the stage where you only get those who are good for you. Now, the only negative about this is that you got to go through some evil motherfuckers, right? Some people will not pass the test. And, any good filtering system says no more often than yes, right? That's just how that is. It's funny. People want better quality, but they don't want they don't want to do what it takes for better quality, which is be more picky, right? Now, the next thing is that, so remember, healthy guys will fall in love with it. And you can't speak at the same time. And not only will they fall in love with it, they're not going to try to change you. There's a big difference between trying to change you and trying to be there for you. When they're there for you, no matter how much you improve or decrease, they're still there. Because the point of it is to be there for you and to understand you, not to change you, right? So, but the toxic guys will either take advantage of it or trying to change you, right? They'll become Captain Save-A-Ho. So that's one thing. Now, the next thing is that you have to have a few things for this to work because if you're highly insecure, so people develop psychological defenses, right? And usually it comes in the form of emotional defenses like anger, resentment, or even a whataboutism. What about you? What about your flaws, right? And usually if you felt attacked as a kid, this is a very normal response and you're going to feel justified. Well, these defenses where you get angry and defensive is what's going to block you from, it's going to cause them to get even more defensive. You can't fall in love when you're in a defensive state. You have to open your arms and allow those arrows to hit you. And if you're closing yourself off because you don't want certain arrows to hit you, well, then they're also going to close themselves off. And that's the source of toxic relationship. People who have emotions that they don't know how to emotionally deal with, right? And the next thing you have to do for this to work is that you have to have good faith because they're going to have flaws and you're going to feel tempted to bring up their flaws during fights. This is to be there for them, not to manipulate them. This is to have a silent presence. Right? And the next thing is, I want you to go first. Be the first one to tell them that you like them. Be the first one to open up emotionally. Because you got to realize a lot of people are scared of being rejected. You opening up and saying how much you like them, say, hey, look, I do like you. You're an amazing person. That is awkward for some people. And you might say, but that's needy. No, think about it. Just think about it. They're the scared one. They're the ones that are afraid to come out. They're the ones that is like this. And you're the one that say, hey, I like you. I'm like, well, this is weird. Like, I know it's weird. I know, but, I just want you to know that. And if you're insecure, your nonverbal cues, it's going to make you look insecure. And they're going to feel awkward. But if you say that with certainty, with a sense of like, yeah, I like you, but it's okay. If you don't have to like me back. It literally comes across as though you're like it just feels right. And people grow attracted to that. But you have to be willing to go first. Be the one that opens up emotionally first. Be the one that shows disappointment at the fact that you maybe didn't respond. Be the one that shows that you care. But don't be the one that does it again next. Like, you got to go first and then back off. Let them be the one that does it next. Because what you're doing is that you're inviting them in a spiral of vulnerability. Because that's how people fall in love, man. People don't fall in love with your strengths. People don't fall in love with the good things about you. That's what they end up hating eventually. It's your weakness. It's your ability to be hurt. The openness to love. That because most people don't have it, when they see you, you're going to be an oasis of love. Like, I had an ex-girlfriend and she was like that. She was like one of the few ones that was like really good at talking. Like really, really good at talking. And to the point that it made me feel awkward. Like there were times when like, because I felt weird that I felt weird that she knew how much I liked her. It was actually a weird thing where if she was to meet me, I wouldn't even make that much eye contact because it feels weird to know that that I like you this much. And when we would hang out, she would give me a look of like why are you acting so distant? Like, and to her it seems like I was sending mixed signals, but for me it was like it just feels awkward. Like it feels awkward for somebody to know how much I care for them, right? And then she was like, Alexis, ¿qué pasa? And I'm like, oh fuck, here we go again. I was like, and she was like, no, dime qué pasa. And that, what most women would have done? They would have said, oh, this guy, or they would have chased, actually, they would have chased because I was acting weird. They would have chased, seek validation. And the last thing they would do is ask, how am I feeling? Most people just don't ask that because you're showing that you care and they're just afraid to do that. And that taught me that if somebody loves you and they see your weakness, they'll come to you and say, hey, how can I help you? And never judge. I never felt judged by her, but that's what really did it, right? And so by you going first, you're showing that, hey, I'm used to this, but you're not used to this. Let me guide you through it, right? But then after you go first, back off and then let them make the next move. If they don't make the next move, it means that they're not open to it. And don't force it, right? Because then you're not really doing it to help them. You're doing it to get to a certain point, right? So remember, people fall in love with your vulnerability. And it's always good that if you have insecurities, to show them that, say, hey, yeah, I hate that I have a big nose. I hate that I have a bushy eyebrow. Like me, I hate that I have small hands. And that type of shit, like people, like at first I think I said the story about the mic died, but I said the story of how this girl told me she had a big nose and I was kind of freaked out because then I realized it was big. But then after a while, she pulled away for some reason. And when she came back, her nose changed. It became like, it's almost like endearing, like a child is afraid. When you see a picture of like a dog that's afraid and you're like, oh, come here, little dog, let me help you. Oh, perrito. It's the same feeling. When you feel sexual attraction to someone and you mix it and you mix it with sympathy, a lot of the times it equals love. Like you mix both of them up, it equals love, right? Because remember, the love of the mother, the love that you have for your family, or even kids, or even dad, is usually in this realm, right? But the difference between the love of a parent and a child is that it doesn't have this, right? You have this already through your weaknesses, and you create love, the love between a man and a woman. The only difference is that they have every element of a relationship with relationship with their parents, but you just don't have the fucking part, right? Like we're not in the South, right? So the next thing is that your weakness puts him in a masculine state. Your weaknesses, your flaws. When you have your flaws, they want to protect you. When you have your weaknesses, they want to be there for you. And that is how you put a man in your masculine, right? You're physically weak, obviously, compared to a man, and you exaggerate it. You know? You say, help me out with this. Be there for me. Hey, I'm scared to walk down that street. Can you go there with me? You know? Look, oh, I'm so depressed. You know, like you allow yourself, you don't hide your weaknesses, because a lot of you guys are trying to be Terminators, man. Y'all trying to act like y'all don't need a guy. It's human nature, man. If you don't, you end up like a Neanderthal. They didn't need to be united because they were strong. They could hunt on their own, but that was their flaws. They were too fucking strong. So your flaws puts a man in his masculine, but when you do show flaws, you're too masculine. Flaws is a feminine quality that guys try to hide, because guys try to hide their femininity. You put a guy in a masculine state through allowing yourself to feel vulnerable. And you do that through opening up first, because most guys don't want to show their vulnerability. You got to teach a guy how to open up. Now, you don't have to be his mom. And when I say teach, I know a lot of you guys say, oh, I'm not going to teach a guy. Okay, I'm not talking about that. Jesus Christ. I'm saying that if he's not toxic, if in your attempt to help him, he doesn't fucking drown you with him, then yes. Yeah, don't be a Terminator woman, man. So when you have this, and if you notice that the guys you're with are too pussyfied, well, most likely you're just too masculine. You're not hiding. You're not showing your flaws. Well, when I say show your flaws, I don't mean go full Bronx mode and stab people. But show your flaws and be okay with it. It's always, if they don't like it, it's not on you, it's on them, because they don't understand that that's how people are. They're not in touch with reality, and they expect the perfect woman, right? And the next thing is that kind of goes with the first one, is that gives them permission to be vulnerable. And this is how people fall in love. The thing about when you love someone, you know what's the most common thing? Is that you know something about them that most people don't, and that's their flaws. They know your flaws more. So that means that they understand that you have a temper problem. They understand that you have this problem. They understand this, and you understand their flaws. And that's honestly what makes people love to be with each other. It's very difficult to find people who accept us for our flaws, as long as those flaws are not toxic to everyone else, right? And what happens is that through your flaws over time, they start to see that as endearing. Like, oh my God, you know that's how your mom is. She sometimes feels sad, but sometimes you got to talk to her and validate her, because that's your mom, for example, right? Let me give you an example with me. Like with my mom, it's kind of like I had to understand that she's just more of an emotionally needy person, right? And I don't like that. But then I started realizing that the Lexus, man, when God forbid she dies, that's exactly what you're gonna think of. You're gonna say, damn, I should have just sent those text messages, right? I mean, when your brain knows what to focus on when somebody dies, and you usually focus on the things that annoyed you. You usually remember the things that. It's never the positive things. Like, oh yeah, remember the one time where she threw that chancleta in my face, man? Oh, no, good old days, right? But if you don't show those flaws, then your brain is not gonna it's not gonna do its thing. It needs negative traits more than positive traits to remember them. So from that, I was like, I texted my mom. I was like, hey man, because she's going to Dominican Republic next month. I was like, I should go see them, right? Because it's kind of like, at this point, I'm the one that's wrong. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like I have to learn to not judge a person's flaws, right? I have to learn not to see that as a negative, even though it might be, but to deal with them with love, right? Not allow their flaws to create a negative reaction in me, but rather allow their flaws to create a sense of compassion. And that's how you truly help them. You don't help them by being mad. You help them by, as long as they're not attacking you, you help them by understanding, okay, this person just needs a little bit more patience. And I say this, for example, with my mom, if I live with her, she does get crazy. But if it's at a distance, I could definitely help, right? And so the vulnerability is really the human side that you love. It's never the fake positive sides. You know, like if you're with me, you'll notice that the positive things you see are really a lot of the times a almost like a facade to hide the opposite in me, right? And if you get to know me, you'll notice that, oh shit, the Lexus is a little different. And those flaws are actually the things you fall in love with. You don't fall in love with the things you think you'll fall in love with. You really are not. You're going to fall in love with the parts that, parts that make me human. And if I don't show you those parts that make me human, the relationship between me and you is going to be flawed because my flaws are eventually going to come up. And if I hide it, it's going to create more friction. It's okay to be flawed, you know? Show people that you have flaws. Let them know that you have flaws. It's counterintuitive, but that's what they're going to fall in love with. All right? Anyways, remember, connect. People who don't fall in love with your flaws are just not connecting with reality. They're judging you. They think they're perfect, right? They want perfection. They'll never love a true woman. They're chasing a fantasy. And this strategy allows you to filter them through how they react, right? If they don't like your flaws, it means that they're also toxic, in my opinion. And also remember, toxic guys will take advantage of it. A guy who's not toxic, when he sees your flaws, they won't take advantage of it. They'll try to help you, right? And then they'll fall in love with, they'll fall in love with those flaws. But remember, you got to watch out for this. Watch out for your emotional defense, because there's a lot of psychological defenses around your flaws. Make sure that when you guys are helping each other, it's in good faith, not to prove a point. And if you're noticing you don't have that type of vulnerability, go first. You know, go first. Like some of you guys legit have relationships where you guys don't speak about emotions. Somebody has to do it. And it's going to feel awkward. But you have to do that, right? Go first. And then back off and let them do the next thing, okay? And the next thing is, remember, your weaknesses create sympathy. Sympathy is the source of your relationship with children and your family member. But the difference between a love of a parent and love between partners is that you have one element, lust. So if they find you attractive and you use your vulnerability, it creates the type of love that you need. Remember, your flaws creates a state of masculinity in a guy because he's going to want to help you. He's going to want to be there for you. He's going to feel compelled to help you. And don't forget, it gives them the opportunity to be vulnerable. So if you're too much of a Terminator and he's too much of a Terminator, your vulnerability is what's going to actually soothe him. And over time, if you manage to do this, he'll fall in love with you even harder, right? It's not necessary. And I'm not telling you guys to use this to have a burden, because I know a lot of you guys are saying that. It's only when it's symbiotic and their flaws doesn't hurt you, right? So yeah, that's it, man. And don't forget, if you guys want to work with Father Alex, go to mindfulattraction.org, and there you'll be able to book a one-on-one phone call with me today. If you guys want to apply this, the one course I recommend is the Feminine Woman. Feminine Woman and the Psychological Game of Attraction, because it's a course that it allows you to be vulnerable, to show your vulnerability while having standards. And the Feminine Woman is a course on how to use your masculine energy and your feminine energy and how to blend it together. A woman and a man who has a mix of masculine and feminine creates a sense of comfort in people. They're more creative. They draw more people to them. And above all, they have an uncanny quality, because it's very rare that you meet people who have an integrated shadow and an integrated masculine and feminine energy. Anyways, let me know if this makes sense, people. And you can purchase all of those courses by clicking on the description down below. And I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.